Assalamualaikum and very warm welcome to our YouTube channel Multan Public School and College. I am Tuba Ishtiyaq, your computer teacher. I'm here with computer science with code 2210 class O level 9. Today's lecture is about communication and internet technologies. In this chapter you will learn a serial and parallel transmission, error checking after transmission, web browsers and internet service providers, HTTP and HTML. My dear students, when data is sent from one device to another, it is important to consider how data is transmitted. It is also important to ensure that the data has not been changed in any way. The internet has now become an integral part of all our lives, and inshallah this chapter will consider some of the important technologies going on in the background which support the internet. And data transmission refers to the process of transferring data between two or more digital devices. Data is transmitted from one device to another in analog or digital format. Basically, data transmission enables devices or components within devices to speak to each other. My dear students, what is data transmission? What is data transmission? And data transmission can be either over a short distance, for example from computer to printer, or over a longer distance, for example over a telephone network. Essentially, three factors need to be considered when transmitting data. Each factor has to be agreed by both sender and receiver for this to work without error. The direction of the data transmission: in one direction only, in both directions. The method of transmission: how many bits are sent at the same time. The method of synchronization between the two devices. Transmission mode means the transferring of data between two devices. It is also known as communication mode. Buses, you must know about the buses because you have already know you have already read about this in your previous classes. Buses are also communication channel, and networks. Buses are also three types of buses are there in the computer. One is parallel data bus, control bus, and universal serial bus. Buses and networks are designed to allow the communication to occur between the individual devices that are interconnected. There are three types of transmission mode. My dear students, three modes are there: simplex mode, half duplex mode, and full duplex mode. In simplex, data transmission is one direction only, from sender to receiver. For example, data being sent from a computer to printer. In simplex mode, the communication is unidirectional and as one-way street. Only one of the two devices on a link can transmit. The other can only receive. The simplex mode can use the entire capacity of channel to send data in one direction. For example, keyboard and traditional monitor. The keyboard can only introduce the input and the monitor can only give the output. Half duplex mode. In half duplex mode, in both directions but not at the same time. For example, data can be sent from A to B, or you can say from B to A along the same line but not at the same time. For example, a phone conversation between two people where only one person speak at a time. In half duplex mode, each station can both transmit and receive, but not at the same time. When we when one device is sending and the other can only receive. The half duplex mode is used in cases where there is no need for communication in both directions at the same time. The entire capacity of the channel can be utilized for each direction. For example, you must know about the walkie-talkie, and walkie-talkie in which message is sent one at the same time, and messages are sent in the both directions. Full duplex mode. What is full duplex mode? You must know about that. Okay, what full half duplex mode and full duplex mode. Full duplex transmission in both directions simultaneously. Data can be sent from A to B and from, you can say, B to A along the same line, both at the same time. For example, broadband connection on a phone line. We all are very much familiar with these type of transmitting the data at our home, at school, at any institute. We are using nowadays these type of transmission of data. In full duplex mode, both stations can transmit and receive simultaneously. In full duplex mode, signals going in one direction share the capacity of the link with signals going in other directions. This sharing can occur in two ways. Either the link must contain two physically separate transmission paths, one for sending and one for receiving, or the capacity is divided between the signals traveling in both directions. Full duplex mode is used when communication in both directions is required all the time. Dear students, the capacity of the channel, however, must be divided between the two directions. For example, telephone network in which there is communication between two persons by a telephone line, or through which both can talk and listen at the same time. Here is a picture of a serial transmission and parallel transmission. Serial transmission, one bit at a time, and parallel transmission means the group of bits at a time. Definition of serial transmission. What is serial transmission? You can say the serial transmission, data transmission, is when data is sent more is one bit at time over a single wire or channel. Bits are sent one after the other in single stream. This method of data transmission works well over a long distance. However, data is transmitted at a slower rate than parallel data transmission. Only one wire or channel is used. There is no problem of data arriving at its destination out of synchronization. For example, of its use is sending data from a computer to a modem for transmission over a telephone line. In serial transmission, data is sent bit by bit from one computer to other in bidirection, where each bit has its clock pulse rate, and 8 bits are transferred at a time, having a start and stop bit, usually known as the parity bit, for example 0 and 1 respectively. For transmitting the data to a longer distance, serial data cables are used. However, the data transferred in the serial transmission is in proper order, and it consists of a D-shaped 9-pin cable that connects the data in serial and in series. In serial transmission has two subclasses, synchronous and asynchronous. Asynchronous transmission, an extra bit is added to each byte so that the receiver is alert about the arrival of new data. Usually 0 is a starter bit and 1 is the stop bit. The method of transmitted as simplex, half duplex or full duplex, this method of data transmission works very well, and over a short distance, over longer distance, the bits can become skewed, and this means they will no longer be synchronized. It is, however, a faster method of data transmission than serial. An example of this use when sending data is to printer from a computer using a ribbon connector. Synchronous transmission. Asynchronous or synchronous data transmission. No extra bit is added. Rather, the data transferred in the form of frames which contains the multiple bytes. Synchronous data transmission is a continuous stream of data, unlike the asynchronous data which is sent in discrete group. This and ensure that the sender and receiver are synchronized with each other. The serial transmission system would not be able to work without the installing hardware at the sending and receiving. The receiver counts how many bits, ones and zeros, were sent and then reassembles them into the bytes of data. The timing must be very accurate. There are no control bits sent in this type of data transmission. My dear students, however, it is the faster data transfer method than asynchronous and is therefore used where this is an important issue. For example, in network communication. Parallel transmission. Parallel transmission, various bits are sent together simultaneously with a single clock pulse. It is a fast way to transmit as it uses many input-output lines for transferring the data. Furthermore, it is advantageous because it conforms to the underlying hardware also as the electronic devices like computer and communication hardware uses the parallel circuitry internally. This is a reason the parallel interface complements the internet hardware, internal hardware, as well. The installation and troubleshooting is easier in parallel transmission system due to its placement in a single physical cable. Parallel transmission use a 25-pin port having 17 signal lines and 8 ground lines. The 17 signal lines are further divided as 4 lines that initiate handshaking. My dear students, you all have already gone through, or you can say that you have already seen these type of cables and devices and data transmission areas. You can see in your school labs also. Status lines and used to communicate and notify errors and aid to transfer data. Advantages of serial transmission. I want to tell you that there are some advantages and also there are some disadvantages, but I want to discuss advantages first. It is cost effective. and it is appropriate for long distance communication, and this is more reliable. And we have some advantages of parallel transmission also, and transmit the data at a higher speed and suits better for short distance communication, and set of bits are transferred simultaneously. Now here are some disadvantages. Serial transmission disadvantages are: a data transmission rate is low throughout, relies on the bit rate. Parallel transmission disadvantages: it is costly transmission system. In order to transmit the data over a long range, the thickness of the wire has to be increased to distinguish signal degradation, and there are multiple communication channels required. So my dear student, this is the end of today's lecture, and we have a lot of more topics in this chapter, but we'll discuss it in the next lecture. Until then, Allah Hafiz, and stay home, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.